before I get into describing our vision of a sustainable future, I think it's important to have a framework for possible futures that we could be looking at here for action. And so this is David Holmgren. I'm sure many of you guys are familiar with his work. He and Bill Mollison helped to flesh out the permaculture concept in the 1970s. He has described some plausible future scenarios based on the speed of peak oil and climate change effects that I think are really helpful and form a really good practical framework for deciding how we want to go about the next 30, 50 years, however it may be. Let's see here. So this is just a really general graph for our energy use over the last 10,000 years. You'll see that it also triples for population and pollution. They're all interrelated and kind of feedback to one another. But we're kind of at the peak there, peak oil, peak energy. The only way that we can continue on this graph of exponential growth is by speculative future technology of accessing different energy sources, and even just continuing with the energy use that we have right now would still be speculative future technology, where new energy sources pick up the slack from declining hydrocarbon reserves. So this scenario is at best unlikely. Our actions can't be based on it because of the far more likely scenario of dramatic energy descent. So therefore, the most plausible scenarios describe how we respond to that descent or how we shape that descent. And hopefully without getting to the collapse line there, which is just dramatic straight economy collapse to low energy society, whatever that may look like. So this is kind of the framework for the 4 energy futures that Holmgren sees. So the 2 on the left are technological slowing of decline. So we have the one that we're kind of headed on right now, which is brown technology, which is looking into dirtier hydrocarbon reserves for our energy usage, like tar sands, offshore drilling, Arctic drilling, shale gas. All these things exacerbate climate change. So we're putting the cost on future generations to maintain or slow that energy descent. Green technology is slowing energy descent by massive investment in renewable energy. So this is what we're all hoping for to a certain degree, is that we start to see more of that. But the key thing to realize is that they both still lead to the 2 on the right, which are low energy societies, because we can't maintain the amount of energy that we're using, and we will have to eventually get to a lower energy state no matter what that looks like. Now, the 2 different options here are Earth Steward, which is a type of society where we have relocalized communities that are self-sufficient and cooperating. And Holmgren sees that as possible in a future that's more benign climate change effects. So that's why he has green tech leading to Earth stewardship, because there's less of that climate change. However, brown technology causes severe climate change, leading to lifeboats, which is frankly apocalyptic in the way that he frames it, which is competing groups over scarce resources, anarchy, a lot of competition instead of cooperation. So in our opinion, green technology is not going to play a large role because there's a massive resource investment in installation and in manufacture, not to mention the supply stream for those materials, all based on hydrocarbon economy and hydrocarbon levels of energy usage. So the sheer scale of that energy usage and projected energy requires national investment policy and would take decades to implement, even if we started today. To be honest, with the current political climate of hyper-partisanship and gridlock, we're 10 years away from any significant green technology investment. And significant is far different than what we're talking about even today. So the rate of oil production decline is important because too quick a decline skips straight to low energy societies, whether lifeboat or Earth Steward. Slow production decline allows for a technological fix, and again, it looks more like we're heading towards brown technology because of invested interests in hydrocarbon energy companies. But that's only inevitable if we have no visible alternative for the population. So that's where we come in. We will build a model sustainable community from the ground up for our low energy future. We will provide an experimental space, demonstrating feasible, sustainable solutions to facilitate relocalizing community resilience. The transition movement is a good and necessary start, but it follows the same problems in political gridlock. Local community levels are going to be resistant to radical change until the instability of our societal structure becomes evident in extreme climate change effects and extreme energy descent or like economy contraction. And by then, it may be too late to institute those radical changes. So we need a ready-made release valve for the 99% once conditions deteriorate enough for that radical change to be accepted by the average American, average world citizen. So we must make the path by walking it. We must relearn how to live without energy, and to prepare adequately, we must start today. We will proactively create the community of the future, instead of waiting to react to rapidly deteriorating conditions. Given uncertainty in the rate of hydrocarbon decline, we must plan as if a low-energy future is imminent, not because it's likely, but because the cost of being unprepared is too great on an individual and a cultural scale. This is the same theory we all ascribe to when we buy fire insurance on our homes. Our design is one built to scale, a 1 to 200 person community unit that can be replicated as individuals make the necessary move from unsustainable, high-density urban areas to rural self-sufficiency. That is not to say that urban areas must also not be retrofitted for their own relocalization, and our community can provide a pathway for their restructuring as well. So ease of replicability is therefore paramount, with minimal capital, minimal outsourced material, and minimal technical background. To eliminate the need for background, we will involve and create experts in relevant fields to record and disseminate their knowledge to all communities to have access to their skill sets. Obviously, sustainable solutions will be somewhat climate dependent, so model communities must be developed in all climate zones. But the general model of well-documented, replicable community should be upheld throughout. Ideally, this will lead to a social movement towards sustainable communities with or without fast energy decline, because brown technology needs to be ameliorated by offloading populations from high energy to low energy living. Gulf drilling and hydraulic fracturing will only continue as long as our lifestyles demand it. This movement is a plausible goal to aim for, especially in the context of our increasingly dysfunctional economy. We have initially identified 4 general areas: housing, energy, agriculture, and public relations that will need to be developed, and we need your help. The collected expertise and knowledge bases of this conference are immense, so we will be running workshops to develop and plan practical solutions for living sustainably. To get started, we will sketch out our current ideas for those general areas. So first is housing. A low energy future will necessitate high efficient construction with locally available materials, such as cob, rammed earth, repurposing post-consumer materials. Additional facets include air quality and circulation, passive design, ideal dwelling occupancy, and the associated psychosocial concerns of multifamily dwelling, and site-based considerations like water material prevalence. Second is energy use, broadly defined. While wind turbine and solar technology are obtainable for the time being, the certainty of their future availability is questionable, and therefore we will design for low or no energy. However, internet access is essential for project visibility and information, so PV panels for smartphones are one caveat, and we're more than willing to discuss others. Transportation methods that we're considering include converted diesel-fueled vehicles with on-site vegetable oil production and human-powered vehicles. Additional energy options are wood heat, solar hot water, etc. Third is agriculture. So permaculture methodology is potentially the most sustainable, most productive, and least labor-intensive method of agriculture. So designing guild lists for a food forest is the most important project for the community. After experimentation with different species, our edible food forest ecosystem can be replicated in urban and rural communities. We will provide seeds and saplings for starter and established communities for the means to relocalize their food production. Seasonal food storage methods under consideration are fermentation, canning, root cellars, drying. We must also plan for food production before food forest maturation, as that is a many-year process. And again, food production is one of the most important things we must focus on in a low-energy future, because the way that we currently produce food is so intimately tied with hydrocarbons that's one of the first things that's going to be dramatically impacted is food production. So fourth is public relations. So our community must be highly visible. We well documented at all stages and readily accessible for in-person and online interaction. Initial recruitment strategies versus long-term expansion and propagation of startup communities need a framework. To this end, we will have a public outreach team and a web presence containing a weekly documentary demonstrating the feasibility and desirability of sustainable living. Self-sufficient communities are a societal progression and not a regression, enhancing our quality of life and not diminishing it. The bottom line is our quality of life will increase through an intimate social support structure that is frankly absent in modern society. Outside of basic necessities, interpersonal relationships are demonstrably the most important factor in human flourishing. And the loss of technological gadgetry should be seen as freedom from distraction and addiction. How to message this in a consumeristic culture is open to question. So, we can live happily, in balance with nature, instead of continuing on this destructive path of feudal hubris that marks us nature's child king. Freed from the tyranny of fossil fuels, we can move forward together, recognizing the interdependence of our extended human family and our interconnectedness with all of nature. Humanity can only face the coming challenges by appealing to the best within us, to the love and kindness that Albert was talking about, to cooperate and collaborate for the benefit of all. So yeah, we need your guys' help. We'll be running a workshop today. I hope to see you guys there. Thank you.